Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel LOT Reviews, and today I'm bringing you back onto the gaming aspect of the channel with my PC performance review of Crysis 3. So Crysis 3, this game was developed by Crytek in conjunction with Electronic Arts EA, who published the game, and this is the third installment of the Crysis series in continuation from the original Far Cry series and Crysis 1, which was released in 2007. And Crysis, built on the CryEngine, this particularly being the CryEngine 3, has always been the graphical staple of any platform, especially the PC. And it's no different with Crysis 3. This game has aged really well, powered by the CryEngine 3. Great character models, great lighting simulation, screen space ambient occlusion, which was introduced by Crytek in the CryEngine series, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous game. It's one of the games that has really aged well, is really demanding, and it scales a lot better than it used to originally. We all know where the original joke came from on the PC platform, can it run Crysis? It does scale really well, but what we really wanted to do today and what I wanted to show you was leveraging the power of dynamic super resolution. So as my system specifications go, I am running a GTX 1080 Founders Edition, overclocked 200 megahertz on the core, 300 megahertz on the memory. I've also got 32 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM with XMP profile enabled, running at 2133 megahertz, and the Core i7 4790K Devil's Canyon processor, overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz from 4 gigahertz. That's the general system, and leveraging the power of dynamic super resolution, I want to run it high at my native resolution, which is 2048 1152, all the way up to slightly higher than quad high definition, to basically show you guys how much graphics headroom is on this game with the hardware that I'm using and how well it's aged, and also the optimization and how demanding the game is. So without further ado, let's dive into the settings. So into the gaming options for Crysis 3, and as you go down to options, you've got a plethora of options for the game, from game, sound, graphics, advanced graphics, brightness, safe area, 3D options, as well as controls. But what I'm going to be focusing on is the graphics option and the advanced graphics. And into the graphics, this is where you have the resolution. So we're going to be running the resolution at 2731 by 1536, which is slightly higher than quad high definition, leveraging again the power of dynamic super resolution, NVIDIA's DSR technology, up for my native panel resolution of 2048 by 1152. This is going to be slightly higher than quad high definition, leveraging the power of the extra graphics headroom and the power that we have on the system to run above native resolution. Full screen is on. The anti-aliasing technique we're going to be using is SMAA medium at 2TX. There is different anti-aliasing techniques that are available in the game, such as FXAA, SMAA, TXAA, as well as MSAA, but the quality of SMAA is something I really like, and because Crytek gives all these options and SMAA really looks good, we're going to be leveraging that at medium. Texture resolution is at very high. Vertical sync or VSync is off, and the system specification has been put to very high. So if we go out and go to advanced graphics, there are a bit more options that are here available, and we're looking at game effects, which is on very high, which is the highest settings it will go. Object is at very high, particles at very high, post-processing effects at very high, shading is at very high, shadows at very high, water effects at very high, and isotropic filtering at times 16x, which is the highest that it will go to. Now again, motion blur is a preferred preference in how you would like it in games. I'm a person that I do like motion blur in games, especially when it's done really well, which Crytek does very well implemented within the CryEngine 3. So I've set that to very high. Lens flares is also on yes, and the settings are very streamlined. There's a lot more detail in there, but it's still very streamlined, which makes it very easy to access the settings you want relative to the look and the quality of the game image relative to the hardware that you're running. And in this case, the hardware does have a lot more headroom. And without further ado, what we're going to do is cut into the next stage where we're going to be running some gameplay, and I'll be talking to you how the quality of the game looks like and also how the game is performing. So this is the beginning sequence of Crysis 3 coming outdoors, and here is going to be the reveal of New York City. So the game is rendering really well, and actually the frame rates are looking really good in the game, and it's such a good representation of how well Crytek actually built this game from the ground up on their CryEngine. And at the moment, if you look at the top left, it's running out around 75 frames a second, between 73 frames a second. GTX 1080 is at 100% utilization, 99% utilization. You've got the core frequency hovering around 1900 megahertz to 2000 megahertz. The memory frequency is stable at 5300 megahertz. VRAM usage is actually at 2.4 gigahertz or 2445 megahertz. The CPU temperature is, around 70 Celsius, and also the CPU utilization is around 49%, 50%, and the DDR3 RAM onboard system memory usage is around 6.3 gigahertz. So right now you're seeing the detailed character models, the scale of the game engine in terms of being able to see the visualization of the city of New York, motion blur effects on the screen, detailed skin character models, detailed lighting effects, lighting shafts. It's just absolutely phenomenal to look at, and just to consider the fact that this game was actually made in 2013, it is aged phenomenally well. This is still probably one of the staple benchmarks gaming engines that you can find on the market right now, and Crytek have really done well. This is graphically probably one of my favorite games to look at. Now moving outdoors, now you're seeing a lot of vegetation, so there's a lot of grass effects, there's a lot of lighting effects happening right now with bloom and high dynamic range lighting, sun flares that are really coming out, lens flare effects that are really coming out as well, ambient occlusion effects that are coming with shadow mappings, and it bouncing off, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal at the resolution, which is slightly higher than quad high definition at the minute, with SMAA medium on, running at around 65 to 70 frames a second. You're looking at the utilization of this really taking leverage of dynamic super resolution. There is no jagged edges, it's absolutely smooth, and the game looks phenomenal.
Well, that's one way to do it. That should be enough. Come on.
This game really looks good. It's one of my favorite shooters. Sometimes this game wasn't necessarily popular for its gameplay, but just the sheer graphics and just looking at all the effects that are happening at once, Crytek honestly really did a good job with this game and how it really looks, and it's still nowadays, funny enough, sets a benchmark for how graphically detailed and how realistic a game engine or a game environment looks. And yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. And the GTX 1080 Founders Edition with the i7 4790K at 4.5 gigahertz and 32 gigabytes of RAM are running this nice and smooth. It looks really good, and again, it just shows the power of dynamic, super resolution, where you don't necessarily have to have a 4K panel or 1440p panel to be able to game at those resolutions. If you have a 1080p panel, you can really leverage the power of super sampling to really scale down, and it really gives you a crisp and sharp image. And as you can see on the screen right now, running at above 60 frames a second, there's so much more headroom in there. The graphics looks amazing, the image quality, the assets on screen, the effects on screen as well, it just looks glorious. The lighting is just gorgeous. That's one thing about this game that I really like. The effects with lighting looks really on point. When you're going through and using a nano suit, the effects that you have on a nano suit, such as cloak, looks absolutely phenomenal. It basically makes you feel like you're a human predator, which is absolutely great. It's a nice feeling to be able to use the predator bow, cloak, move around, have a stealth aspect to the game, and the graphics and the vegetation and the environment looks absolutely crisp. If you look at the motion blur effects that are on screen as well, it really does look on point. And as much as it is a preference, that's something I really like when I'm actually playing these games. It gives it a nice cinematic feel to it, but without losing the details of the game. The sharpness is still there because of the dynamic super resolution and high resolution gameplay, and also just being able to enjoy the environmental aspects of the game and the environment that it creates when you're playing it. It really gets you drawn into the game. and it gives this movie-like effect, but still having the ability to play at high frame rates. So it's really good. It's a very enjoyable game. Just wanted to bring you guys another example of how with older titles, or even certain titles that are really optimized in the modern day, where you can actually scale up, have a much sharper image, and still gain all the high frame rates if you have the graphics headroom. And you know, DSR, dynamic super resolution, is something I use a lot, and again, I just wanted to demonstrate to you guys again how effectively it works with Crysis 3. Anyway, without further ado, thank you so much. This is your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel. Like and subscribe, share for more content like this, and you'll be seeing more on the channel next time. Signing out.